Welcome, everybody. Um, Today, we'll be talking about compost teas and extracts with Sundiata Hardy-El and, and some quick introductions. Like I said, I'm Jasmine, membership coordinator for the Farmers of Color Network. Um, we'll also have our Farm Services Director, T. Turner, joining in just a few minutes. And then Hope, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we'll just pass it over to Sundiata.
Hey, wonderful people. I am Hope Osteen Balcom, Farmers of Color Network Communications Project Manager. Very happy that you all are here and grateful for your patience.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sundiata, and I am a grower and a composter here in Tallahassee, Florida. And I am excited to be here on the call with you all today.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Sundiata. Um, a lot of you put some responses in the chat about how you practice rest, and it's so lovely to hear how you all are doing so. Um, Fishing and not getting out of bed, keeping a weekly day of rest, watching football, um, gardening, which I feel like is a slippery slope if you're a farmer, because it's kind of also what you do for your job, but same here. Um, So yeah, feel free to keep sharing in the chat. Maybe it'll, give some ideas or inspiration to someone else who's looking for how they can support their practices of rest. Um, and yeah, I am going to hand it over to Sundiata. I'll stop sharing my screen so he can share his slides. And feel free to, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And we'll certainly save time at the end, but we'll also, as needed, kind of shout them out throughout the presentation. So, all right, hand it over to you.
All right. Let me share my screen.
Oh shoot, I got a call at the same.
Okay. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Compost
Yeah.
extract and
Yes.
compost tea. All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. So again, I'm Sundiata, um, here in Tallahassee, Florida. I've been farming for about um, a little over a decade, since 2012, and fell in love with the whole idea and concept of compost. Didn't know anything about it before I started farming. And like probably some of you, once you step into the agricultural world, it just opens up. Everything just opens up. And before you know it, you're knee deep in so many aspects of growing, whether you're trying to compost, start seeds, microgreens. It doesn't matter. It's endless, right? And so we are excited to be in this space and to be in the ag industry, because it is booming. There are tons of opportunities in the industry, and I just encourage everyone to keep going, find your niche, find what it is that you really enjoy, and run with it. Okay, so compost extract and compost tea, liquid-based solutions to enhance soil biology. All right, so let's just start with a little bit more about who I am and how I got into this work. So if you look at the picture on your left, it says Florida Rural Electric News. So this was a magazine back in the 70s. I tried looking it up online to see if I could find archived issues, but I wasn't able to. Maybe I'm just not digging deep enough. But the man on the right in that picture, hold on, I should have access to a pointer on this thing. Let me just see how I can do that. Da, 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 da. Uh, I know that feature's on here. Okay. Can everybody see that little red dot?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So this is my father right here. This is his brother-in-law, my uncle. So my uncle, Thomas Mason, was already a professor at Florida A&M University here in Tallahassee, Florida's 1890 land grant institution. It's a HBCU. And
HBC.
he invited my father to come down to start this worm business with him in Midway, which is a small town right outside of Tallahassee. So I like to tell people that I like to let folks know that that's my origin story. I'm in Florida because of worms, because of red wiggler worms. That's how I got down to Tallahassee, Florida. So you see here is just, it looks like raised beds, but these are beds filled with red wiggler worms. But of course, during this time, these two gentlemen didn't really know how beneficial the worms are for agricultural purposes. So what do you think industry they were in? Raising worms for what?
Fishing.
They were raising these worms for fishing, for bait. Absolutely. The business didn't last that long. I'm still a little unclear on how it dissolved. But again, this is my origin story. Here, does anybody know who that gentleman is here in the blue sweater? Y'all can yell it out. Anybody? So this man here is kind of like the pioneer of urban ag.
Will
Uh,
Allen.
there you go. This is Will Allen out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And he had an organization called Growing Power. And this was in 2012 when I went to his international conference in Milwaukee. And that conference completely changed my life. I'm learning about mushrooms. I'm learning about worms. I'm learning about race, racial inequities in food systems. I'm learning about all of these things related to food systems, and it just completely blew my mind. And I just continued to move forward in this industry. This is me thinking that I know what I'm doing. That's my compost. It looks like slop. So it doesn't quite look like that these days because I've gotten a whole lot better at making compost. Here, this is me thinking that I'm the compost king, sitting on top of the compost bins, thinking that I just knew it and had it all figured out. But of course, the more you come to know, the more you realize how much you don't know. And I just have been on a journey over the past, 9, 10 years, perfecting the art of compost creation. All right. So what is compost extract and what is compost tea? Because they are a different, they're different things, okay? Um, so by definition, compost extract is defined as a liquid made by soaking or rinsing finished compost in water to release its beneficial microorganisms and soluble nutrients, creating a microbial rich liquid used as a soil conditioner, fertilizer, or a biocontrol agent for plants. Compost tea is defined as a brew made by steeping finished compost in water, extracting those same beneficial microorganisms and soluble nutrients to create like a probiotic enhancer for your garden by boosting soil health, improving nutrient uptake, and helping plants fight diseases through forced aeration and added food sources to multiply the microbes. So these are the differences between the extract and the tea. Extract, you're just simply extracting the baseline microbes that are in your finished compost into the water. Whereas compost tea, you're adding all of these other tools and technology and microbial foods to multiply your baseline microbial counts, right? So we're looking to multiply those microbes to be able to apply those microbes to your plants. All right. So what is the objective of extracts and teas? What are we trying to accomplish here? So what I want to do really quick, if you could drop it in the chat, um, let me know if you are composting and also add a little side note if you've experimented with compost teas and compost extracts. If you could do that for me really quick, that would be great. Let me see what type of responses we get here. composting for your gardens, experimenting with vermicompost tea, very good. Worm castings are excellent, an excellent microbial source. Yes, but no tea or extract yet. Okay, you're composting. You have a worm farm, Alyssa. Very good. I use their castings to create tea also. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm trying to compost and have tried to make humic acid for my beds. All right, stick with it. I compost inside with mill and compost outside. Awesome. Yep, I've made extract from your definition. Cool. Cold and Bokashi. Spent brewery waste. Wonderful. Wonderful source. Okay. All right. So a lot of you all are experimenting with not just composting, but with making your liquid enhancements as well. So many of you are familiar with a lot of this information. All right. Okay. So what are we trying to achieve here? All right. So disease suppression, improve soil structure, improve nutrient availability, rapid plant growth, pest mitigation, reduction in fertilizer costs, enhance flavor in your fruits and vegetables, and increase water retention. So if any one of those stands out for you, I just want you to think about it. Or are we trying to achieve all of these things? Right? And we are striving for all of these. We're striving for all of these benefits that come along with the creation of teas and extracts. All right, so let's do a little bit of comparison, shall we? The benefits of both. So an extract, again, which is just extraction, it's just soaking, right? Some of the tools that you need is just a bucket, compost, clean water, and a compost tea bag. When I say clean water, what do I mean? Anybody can yell it out. What are we talking about when I say clean water? So clean water could be rainwater, right? It could be well water that doesn't have too many nutrient conditions in it. Or it could be water that's coming from your municipality. The only thing is water coming from your municipality is usually treated with chlorine. So there's chlorine, and chloramine. Chlorine, you can just off gas. Chlorine, you're able to off gas it by putting water in a container and just letting it sit outside for for a day. Let it sit outside for 24 hours. And it'll off gas that chlorine. But if you have chloramine in your water, the gentleman in the chat earlier talked about experimenting, trying to make humic acid. You can take a compost that has humic acid in it, which most composts do, and you can drop clean water through that compost and let it drop into your bucket with the chloramine, and it'll begin to those humic acids will begin to neutralize the chloramine inside of that water. So it's always good to know what your city's water composition looks like in terms of the antimicrobial agents. So all cities usually put out a water quality report. So make sure you go into your water quality report in your particular city and see what agents they use to clean their water. Very, very important to know. Okay, so again, the microbial count is just baseline diversity. And the extract is usually used for soil drenching and putting those nutrients directly into the bed. And the stability of an extract is much better than an aerated tea. The stability of an extract can last for days, sometimes even a week, more than a week, because you don't have that multiplied effect of your microbes. Whereas with the teas, the microbes can end up going anaerobic very, very fast, because that forced air that you're giving them through that pump is allowing them to multiply. And so they're multiplying because of not only the foods, but because of the additional oxygen that you're supplying through that forced air. And so when you cut that forced air off, what are the microbes going to start to do? They're going to start to become more anaerobic, and then the anaerobes will end up taking over the aerobic microbes, creating a potential pathogenic situation in that tea. So the teas are aerated, brewing with food. Again, you need a bucket, compost, clean water, a compost tea bag, and the microbial foods and an air pump. And we're going to talk about some of those foods in just a little bit. And so your microbial count is no longer baseline from the compost itself. It is now multiplied exponentially through the feeding of those foods and that forced air. And the suggested uses for teas are foliar spray. And the foliar spray is usually used for disease control and, of course, enhanced nutrients. Now, when you foliar spray, you want to make sure that you're spraying your plants not just on top, right? You want to make sure you spray underneath those plants as well. That's very, very critical to the effectiveness of the compost tea. And the stability, like we mentioned with the extract, it is not the same. The stability for compost teas it's hours. You must apply that tea almost as soon as you finish brewing it. Again, because we don't want it to go anaerobic and end up being, detrimental to your plants. All right, so here's some of the foods that we are talking about. And these are just a few. There are additional foods. I'll mention some of those in a little while. But this is unsulfured blackstrap molasses. That's a simple sugar. So your bacteria are going to feed and multiply from the molasses. And sometimes you don't even really need to add a simple sugar. The bacteria are going to, they're going to multiply simply because they're the most numerous microbe that is in your compost. So sometimes you might want to focus on feeding the fungi, right? And when you feed the fungi, here, this is a kelp meal, as you can see. Fungi love kelp. Fungi also love fish emulsion and fish hydrolysate. So these forms of foods are for fungal growth. And again, the blackstrap molasses is for your bacterial growth. And compost is bacterial heavy already from the start. So that's why some practitioners of making teas and extracts say, no need to really feed the microbes any food. They're going to multiply with that forced air, and therefore focus on feeding the fungi. All right. Any questions so far where we are? I just want to, I don't want to, breeze through this so quickly. But if anybody has any questions, please put it in the chat, and we can, have an exchange. Oh, lots of great responses. I appreciate that. No chlorine. Okay. Okay, so there's a question about how do you get disease suppression from compost tea. So when microbes are multiplying, or just when microbes when they're multiplying, whether in compost, when you're making compost, or you're brewing a tea, bacteria specifically give off glues. That's how they bind themselves to the sand, the silt, the rock, the clay, whatever your soil profile is, to create microaggregates. So the glues that the bacteria give off when they're growing inside of a tea, that sticky film that the bacteria give off can provide a protection layer around the plant. So that's why I said it's important to not only spray, because, you know, if you're spraying, 9 times out of 10, you're just going to focus on what you see, the top part of the plant. But spraying the underside or the underbelly of the plant is just as important, because they're, you know, the plant is able to absorb these nutrients through all parts of their body. But having spraying, you know, spraying the entire plant will provide that that protection of those glues from the bacteria. And what that does, it not only increases the health and immunity of the plant, which, if a plant is healthier, right, it doesn't give off those signals to the insect world that it needs to be taken out, right? So you're not only providing additional health and immunity for the plant, but you're also coating that plant with that film, that sticky film, and it acts as a pest control agent. So, and the disease part, same thing. The more you apply these nutrients into your soil or on top of the plants, it increases the plant's immunity and its ability to be healthy and ward off certain pests. And the more you put those teas and extracts in your soil, you increase nutrient availability, and that suppresses potential pathogens in your soil. Okay, great question. I'm just going to check to see if there are any others.
Yes, there was one more.
Okay, how big is outcome differences with bacteria-dominated compost tea and fungal compost tea? Would you say for orchard, better fungi? And for vegetables, bacteria-dominated compost tea? Yeah, for orchards and like shrubs and bushes, perennials, they prefer fungal dominated soils. So if you are creating a fungal dominated extract or tea, then that's going to just enhance the ability for those plants to, you know, cycle nutrients, because what we're striving for is a 1-to-1 fungal to bacteria ratio in those types of perennials. So if you're growing, you know, vegetables or pasture, you know, grasses and things like that, they love bacteria, especially actinobacteria, brassicas and things of that nature. They love actinobacteria, and they are, you know, they prefer a bacterial dominated compost. Now, they will also benefit from a fungal dominant compost extract tea or just regular compost also, because of the ability for the fungi to take those micro aggregates that the bacteria form in the rhizosphere, in the root zone, and the fungi are going to create the, you know, their hyphae. They're going to extend their hyphae around the micro aggregates, creating a macro aggregate. And so all of these plants will benefit from a fungal dominated compost. But you don't, it doesn't have to be fungal dominated if you're focusing on, you know, sort of regular vegetable production. But orchards, perennials, they operate in a much higher fungal to bacteria dominated type of soil. So adding that same type of extract or tea would be ideal. It would just enhance their growth. So one of the things that people do when they're trying to figure out how to increase or enhance the fungi properties within the soil or in the compost is, after a compost is done cooking, it is bacterial dominated at that point. But what you have to do is you have to let it sit. So some of you all who have composted before or who have done research on it, there's a curing phase. And that curing phase is letting it sit for, you know, could be weeks, could be months. The longer you let it sit, the more fungi you're going to allow to grow inside of that compost. And so that's one way to create a more fungal dominated compost, and therefore tea and extract is letting your compost cure for a certain amount of time, and that fungi will grow exponentially inside that compost, that stable compost. You know, when your compost is below 120 degrees Fahrenheit, that's when the fungi, after about a week or so of it being finished, the fungi will begin to grow more and more and more. So the longer you let it sit, the more fungal dominated it will become. So great question. Great question. Okay, here we're going to keep it moving. So the process. So now we've talked about extracts and we talked about teas, right? But you have to make the extract first in order to make the tea, right? So what you do, you just simply place roughly a pound. Now we're talking about a 5-gallon bucket at this stage. So you can scale up however you see fit. So you just want to place roughly about a pound of compost in your compost tea bag. And that image is of a compost tea bag in the background. So it's a 400 micron nylon mesh. That is what compost tea and extraction experts have realized, that mesh has to be 400 micron to really allow the microbes to come out of the compost through that bag and into your water. So you want to dip the bag in and out of the water for a few minutes, submerge, and then massage that bag for several minutes. And that's the extraction process. So from there, you can actually drench your soils. You can just pour that directly towards the base of the plant, directly into the root zone to add those nutrients. All right, now to continue along the tea process, you then add the air tubes to begin pumping air into the water. You can add 1 tablespoon of that molasses that we talked about, 1 tablespoon of the fish emulsion, and maybe about a half cup of the kelp powder or granules. So now we're entering into the multiplication phase, right? So we went from the extraction phase into the multiplication phase simply by adding air and adding these foods for the microbes. You can let it brew anywhere between 16 to 24 hours. Apply immediately after the brewing time as a foliar spray to every part of the plant. Like I said, getting not just on the top of the leaves, but getting under the leaves also. And so we just mentioned that you can apply the extraction as a soil drench directly to the roots. And both extracts and teas can be applied every 7 to 10 days if you see fit. You'll see dramatic results if you do stay on this schedule of doing it every 7 to 10 days for 2, 3, 4 months. The same way conventional farmers and even organic farmers go out and buy fertilizer. And when I say organic farmers are going to go buy specific organic soil amendments and fertilize every couple of weeks or halfway through the plant's life cycle. Conventional farmers will buy synthetic fertilizers. So the same way people are fertilizing their plants, you can do the same thing through your soil drenches and your foliar spray of your teas. And doing it every 7 to 10 days is not harming the plant at all. You are just feeding it biology, continuously feeding the plant in the soil biology that will benefit that plant in any way, in all ways possible.
To have a
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say Violet Keys asks, what's the best time of day for this application?
So there's been a little bit of controversy around compost tea applications. The extract, you can apply that at any time you want. It doesn't matter the time of day. If some of you all have done foliar sprays before with other soil enhancers or other soil amendments, a lot of times they say do it in the morning, right? It'll give the plant an opportunity to absorb while it's still cool. The sun won't be out to quickly dry up, your application. or possibly burn the plant. So some in the soil food web school have said that compost tea foliar sprays are completely safe to apply at any time of the day. But I think conventional wisdom is just do it in the morning. That way, there's no worry about something happening when you apply that foliar spray and the sun blazing in the middle of the day, especially when you live down here in the South. You know, it gets brutal during the months of, you know, July, August, September. And of course, you know, like many of you, some of your growing zones have changed. Within the last 2 years, our zone went from an 8B and now we're zone 9A. So we have gotten hotter, and that is the trend. So I would just, you know, stay with the conventional wisdom of applying that spray first thing in the morning. Not so much, yeah, went from 7B to 8A, exactly. And I wouldn't advise spraying in the evening time. Some of you all might have experienced, especially when you water your brassica, I mean, not your brassicas, but your cucurbits, because of the sensitivity of the leaves of cucurbits, cucumbers, and squash, and all those types of plants. You know, those leaves don't need to be wet going into the evening because powdery mildew, mold, things like that could begin to proliferate on those leaves. And so spraying in the morning gives that plant an opportunity to absorb, but also dry off and not be wet overnight. So I hope that makes sense. 8A to 8B in central Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Yep, things are changing. Zones are changing. So guess what? I remember Hope did an interview and an article with, I can't remember the lady's name. You can remind me, about farmer resiliency. And that's something that has to really be taken into account with all of us, no matter where you are, no matter where you're located, is to begin to come up with a farming resiliency plan. The first place
Every
I
day I
would
come to the
start,
computer, there's something that's missing. Where's my camera?
was that geared towards me? I didn't
Then
quite
meeting
hear.
and I don't have my camera.
Okay. Um, already learned something interesting. Okay. Uh, so that farmer resiliency plan is critical, because you never know what the changes might look like on your farm. So where I would start is with your soil. I would definitely do everything that I could possibly do to enhance the structure of your soil. When you have good structure, that means that you have, you know, good fungi. You have the soil food web moving around in that root zone, and fungi hold on. They store carbon 10 times better than bacteria. They also store moisture better than bacteria. And so you want to make sure that your soils are as structured as can possibly be. And that is going to be your first line of defense, in my opinion, to creating that that farm resiliency plan. Many other things fall into that plan, especially based on where you're located. But I would start with your soil. You have to get your soils structured. If you live in areas with sandy soils, my goodness, you have got to add organic matter as much as you possibly can. So that's either through compost, through extracts and teas, and cover cropping. Cover cropping is critical. Growing that crop, maybe a cover crop mix. You know, it could be clover, oat, rye, hairy vetch, for the fall, sugar snap pea, for the summertime, buckwheat, iron clay peas. You know, all of these things will help to create structure and keeping your soil covered. Now, when you do grow cover crops, a lot of people will chop and drop, right? Y'all have heard that expression before? They'll just cut the biomass where it meets the bed, and then they'll just leave the biomass on top. The biomass will dry up. It can act as a natural mulch after it dries up. But a lot of what the that biomass will end up doing as it is drying up, it will release a lot of the nutrients that would otherwise be utilized by the microbes if you turned it in. So there's an opportunity for you to give your microbes all of that biomass so that they could begin to break that material down, and you're just providing more food for them in the root zone. So you have to do what's best for you in your if you're not able to till in, or I'm not a huge proponent of tilling, but there has to be a way for you to work that material, work that biomass into the soil profile so that the microbes can begin to break that material down, and they'll continue to multiply simply because you're feeding them all of that biomass. Anything in the chat? Let's see. Comfrey is good. Also nettles. Yep. I was going to add an additional slide to this to talk about other companies, or there's one in particular I would have to it's an institute, and they focus on biodynamic farming, biodynamic application. And so they sell these kits, and some might have comfrey, some might have dandelion, the nettle, like you said, and they'll make foliar sprays with these herbs. And these herbs are another way to add those nutrients back into to your soils and to the plants. So that is biodynamic farming. So you can just Google that and you'll see different stuff come up. So Matt says, if don't till in to incorporate nutrients, what is recommended? I mean, if tilling is if it works for you, then I'm not going to say necessarily don't do it. Just know that there's certain technology that you may be able to use to turn material into the soil, but also maintain its structure, right? Has anybody ever heard of a spader? It's you attach it to your PTO on the back of your tractor. So a spader has these divots that go like this, and that spader it'll open the ground up, but it'll maintain some of the structure of your soil. Anytime you open the ground, you're going to lose some microbes. That's just, whether you're hoeing with a stirrup hoe or a traditional hoe, you're going to lose some microbes. That's just a fact. But if you're able to turn biomass into your soil utilizing a less invasive method, then that's what you want to incorporate. See, tillers have those tines, and they just go, and they're just chopping and shredding and opening up the soil. So, you're using that tiller, you're just releasing a lot of a lot of your a lot of your microbiology. So utilizing certain implements like a spader is can be a little bit more beneficial. All right, chop and drop, but based on loss of nutrients mentioned. Yeah, and I've chopped and dropped in the past, but through my learning, I'm just learning that you are losing a lot of what the microbes would be able to actually take in and feed on when you incorporate it into the ground. So All right. So here, let's move
Sundiata, I
on.
did want to let you know real quick that we have about 10 minutes left.
Gotcha. All right. So these are just the steps that I mentioned. So this is craft compost created by Compost Community. This is what we do. This is sifted compost. Here's our bag. Here's our water. We're just dipping the tea bag in the water, in and out for a number of minutes. Here's where we began to massage the bag to pull more of the nutrients and the microbes into the soil. I mean, into the water, sorry. And here's my baby girl, Rahila. She is getting ready to pour some fish emulsion into the brew here. So you see, we leave the tea bag in the container as it is bubbling. Our pump is down here, and our tubes are in the water, forcing that air in. If some of you all have brewed teas, now, yeah, some of you have brewed because you mentioned that. Sometimes you'll end up with a lot of foam on the top of your container. That's not necessarily a sign that your tea is just like magical and it's at its peak. But what happens is those microbes are actually releasing energy, and the foam is a visual indicator that they are moving a little bit past their peak. So you want to try to use that tea before it completely foams over, if that makes sense. So so that's just something to keep in mind. All right. So these are some of the types of brewers that we have. Again, just a regular 5-gallon bucket with a pump and your hoses. This is a conical brewer. It moves the water within the brewer a little different from like using a 5-gallon bucket. It'll usually be bubbling from the bottom, hitting the compost tea bag that would be hovering right here at the top. And so the water, so you're not actually massaging the bag like you would in the bucket, but the water is hitting it and extracting all of the nutrients from the compost. And here's a tote, an IBC tote. You can actually build these. They have a DIY PDF instructions on how to build this brewer from a IBC tote. You see, you have your pumps right here, your air tubes going into this pipe to create that agitation that you need to pull the microbes off of the compost. A couple of different types of pumps. This is just a backpack sprayer, right? This is another backpack sprayer from Stihl. I want to invest in one of these because they have gas powered ones and they have battery powered ones, and it's a way to just spray that mist, you know, through the motor onto your plants. This is, you know, specifically for your liquid, and a lot of people use it for fertilizers and other, you know, pesticides and all of that kind of stuff. But you know, it can be used for compost teas as well. This is a larger application, hooking it up to a truck and going out into your field, and it'll most likely have a boom spray on the back, and you just activate it. And as you're rolling into your fields, it'll be, you know, dropping that liquid onto your pasture. Uh-oh, let me go back. And this here is another, this is a tank. This is your hose here. This is your hose. And this is your pump. And what's important about this particular setup is that you want to get a diaphragm pump. If you're going to move into spraying larger fields or larger tracts of land, you want to end up having this on a trailer because it's very, very heavy. And the diaphragm pump is preferred by compost liquid enthusiasts because it has a mechanism that won't allow the how should I say, the force of the microbes when you're spraying to kill the microbes off. The microbes are able to move through this pump and still stay alive as you spray them onto your field or your crops. And so If you're going to go larger, you want to make sure that your sprayer has a diaphragm pump. All right. These are some additional foods. You can use moringa powder. If you wanted to use organic liquid fertilizer already, this is Fox Farm Plant Bloom. It has bat guano and worm castings. So those things are going to be great foods for the microbes. You could also put alfalfa in your compost tea blend, and the microbes will feed on that as well. Additional trace minerals, things of that nature. All right, let's see where we are. So this is your bestie when you're making compost. This is your thermometer. This past January, Tallahassee had an event. We don't get heavy snow. Y'all remember when that snowstorm came, and I think it was early January, and it dropped snow everywhere, and Tallahassee got tons of snow. After the following day from the snowstorm, here is the temperatures inside of the compost pile. Still in that PFRP range. If anybody knows what PFRP is, if you don't know, it is the process to further reduce pathogens. And so that range is 131 to about 165 Fahrenheit. So this is after a snowstorm. So it's not the ambient conditions outside of the pile. It is how you build it, making sure that you have your ratio together, making sure that your carbon is 2/3 of your entire blend and your nitrogen is 1/3. And that's what we do. We only use wood chips, fruit and veggie scraps, and coffee grounds. That is our recipe. And making sure that we stay consistent with that, which is one of your best friends also, is your recipe. If you can create a consistent recipe, then your product will be consistent. So that's important. But this is your bestie right here, is getting a thermometer. All right. So these are some of the beneficial microorganisms. This bacteria is everywhere. These white dots are the bacteria all in here. This is fungi. This is your beneficial. This is a bacteria feeding nematode. These are images that I captured from my own compost. And then you also have the protozoan family, which is the flagellates, the ciliates, and the amoebas. So this is what you want to do. If you don't get your soil tested, you want to start. And so there's soil tests that you can send it off to your extension agents, and they'll look for the elements inside of your compost and your pH. But getting somebody to do a biological assessment is also great, because you'll be able to see the life that's actually in your compost or your soil. So you want to grow nutrient dense food, and this is the end result. This is what we want to do. This is an okra plant, simply a seed dropped inside of our finished compost. Scotch bonnet, Malabar spinach. This is one of the best greens you could grow during the summer months. You have your malvaceas, your roselle, and your okra, carrots, purple giant mustards, broadleaf mustards, and crowder peas. And so the end result is robust food production, nutrient dense food, and that is what we're all striving for. That is what we're striving for. Even if you're growing in pasture, right? You want to grow good nutrient dense grass for your livestock. If you're ranching cattle, sheep, goat, whomever, whatever. Okay. All right. I think we are to the end. Here's my contact information. If you want to take that down, I'm always down for a good consultation. Just to talk. You can follow me on social media, Sundiata Compost Community. And I hope that y'all were able to gain something from this particular webinar today. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. I know we're 2 minutes past time, but we had two questions drop in the chat, and I wanted to make sure we at least got to those. So M. Troncoso asked, I don't have experience with composting yet, but I do have a vermicomposting bin. How does regular compost tea compare to vermicompost, and which one is better?
Um, they're both on a equal playing field to a certain degree. But remember the teas are you're going to feed those microbes, and you want biodiversity in your compost or in your tea mix. So if you do, are you if you're vermicomposting and that's all you have, then put that in a bag, extract it, and then add your foods. The microbes are going to absolutely love it. So whether it's vermicompost or regular compost from other organic matter, it's the foods that you feed them and the forced aeration that's going to allow those microbes to grow. And again, it's biodiversity. So if you have worm castings and you go get some alfalfa or some azomite or some kelp, that's just going to add to the multiplication of your microbes. And that's what you want to strive for. So I hope I answered that question. And we had another one.
Yeah, the last one was quick. Violet Keys mentioned that she is a loose tea drinker, and she asked, what about tea leaves? I think in regard to adding it into the compost piles.
Absolutely. Tea bags, not those new modern tea bags that are kind of like plasticky, it's like it's not paper anymore. Well, there's still a lot of companies that use paper, but yes, those can absolutely go into your compost. The worms might even eat it up and drop their castings. So that's yeah. So loose tea is great. Put those tea leaves in there and let the microbes jump on those things as well. So when you're making compost, if you are making compost, you can you got to have that 2/3 carbon, and you can have 20% or 70% carbon, 20% nitrogen, which is like your regular food and veggie scraps, and then you can have 10% high nitrogen. Our coffee grounds are considered our high nitrogen, but high nitrogen is usually manure based. So if you have access to clean manure, then that can be your 10% high nitrogen. Okay. So, but if you just have fruit and veggie scraps, eggshells, tea, all of that, add it with your wood chips or your leaves, you just want to make sure that you have that 70% and 30%, and that's your blend.
Okay, real quick, and then we're gonna wrap up. Judith Alston said, "Goat manure?" Question mark, question mark.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just remember, sometimes people will try to make a liquid out of like the fresh manure. Always be careful there. Always be careful. Even with ruminants, you wanna compost it first. When you compost it first, you are allowing the microbes to feed on that, break it down, utilize their heat, the heat that they generate, and and make and create it or convert it so that it becomes stable and soluble for the roots to absorb. So always compost it first. That's my recommendation, especially when you're dealing with manures.
Great note to add. And yeah, we're 5 minutes over. So thank you, Sundiata, again. There's so much gratitude and praise and thank yous in the chat. Um, thank you to all of our members for joining today. And yeah, the recording for this session will be sent out to everyone who registered. So if you joined late or just wanted to revisit it, that will be available.